Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Many of the Oregon fans know I have been extremely vocal that I think this Oregon Ducks team is one of, if not the best team in the country heading into the 2024 year. And I think a large part of why I'm so high on this Oregon Ducks team is I think they have one of, if not the best wide receiver rooms in the country heading into 2024. Now, yes, they have a ton of NFL talent, right? Tez Johnson, one of the best wide receivers in the country in 2023. You're bringing a guy like Evan Stewart. You return someone like Tre Johnson. But I think what really sets this Oregon wide receiver room apart is not only the talent, but the diversity of skill sets that they have in this wide receiver room. And Will Stein has a ton of different skill sets to attack defenses in a multitude of different ways. And it kind of reminds you of what that Oregon wide receiver room looked like in 2023 as well. Want to dive into what traits these Oregon wide receivers bring to the table and how this is really going to open up this offense heading into 2024. Extremely excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Oregon Duck fans. This has been a program that it's been no secret has been a blast for me to talk about, whether we're talking the high school recruiting trail, the transfer portal. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to spend some time looking, kind of taking a deep dive into three wide receivers for this Oregon team, kind of looking at the film and talking about what different ways they can attack defenses. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is by no way me sleeping on a guy like Jerion Dickey, who I think is extremely talented and certainly going to play a role in this Oregon offense. But I want to look at the three wide receivers that I think a lot of us think will be the main contributors for this Oregon offense. And I want to start with wide receiver Tez Johnson. And what's so special about Tez Johnson, I think what separates him apart from a lot of other elite slot wide receivers is two things. One, his ability to create separation early and often in his route tree. And furthermore, when he gets the football in space, he is one of the best players in terms of yards after catch in the country. You take a look at Tez Johnson, his average depth of target, only 7.6 yards down the field. It's no secret how Oregon wants to get Tez Johnson involved in this offense, but an 81% completion percentage when targeted, over 720 yards after the catch. You're looking at a guy that can take a 4-yard pass, turn it into a 25-yard chunk play, and that's a massive asset for this Oregon offense. And you kind of dive into the film of Tez Johnson, take a look at what he brings to the table. This is a guy that is elite in those third and intermediate kind of spots. You look at this right here, lined up in the slot where we normally see Tez Johnson, and he's going to get a favorable matchup, right? And you look at this, the linebacker drops to kind of take away Tez Johnson, that short intermediate route that you know he's going to run. What separates Tez Johnson is there's not many wide receivers that can create separation this quickly in the route tree. It gets himself right to Bo Nix, easy, and you're picking up the first down. Tez Johnson and his ability to separate with his routes, extremely impressive. Now, the next play we take a look at, you have Tez Johnson motioning pre-snap. You know it's man coverage because this guy follows him across the formation. And there are not many defensive backs in the country that can work with Tez Johnson in man coverage, another third down situation. And you kind of just know Tez Johnson is going to create that separation. But what here you kind of see is he's going to make something happen after the catch too. Again, 4-yard pass, he's going to turn it into a 25-yard chunk play because, again, one of the most dynamic players in the country after the catch. Now, why was Tez Johnson able to find so much space in that Oregon offense last year? I think a large part of it was they had some guys that could work vertically down the field. Troy Franklin being kind of the guy. They go grab an Evan Stewart, someone who I think is largely going to play that Troy Franklin vertical threat in this Oregon offense in 2024. You take a look at Evan Stewart's numbers in one. The numbers really don't paint a clear picture on how good Evan Stewart was. You go back to him as a true freshman in 2022. We were kind of banging the table for Evan Stewart being one of, if not the best wide receiver in the country heading into last year. Injuries, bad offense, quarterback getting hurt, kind of caused his production to take a dip. Make no mistake about it, Evan Stewart is a first-round caliber wide receiver, and I think fits into this Oregon offense kind of like a glove. Now, why I'm so high on Evan Stewart is he is going to be that guy that is working down the field. His average depth of target, 14.5 yards down the field. That is almost double what what Tez Johnson's was last year. Kind of similar to Troy Franklin's numbers, right? Troy Franklin was 12.8 yards of average depth of target. Now, you take a look at why does Tez Johnson have so much room to operate in those short intermediate route trees? It's because they had a wide receiver like Troy Franklin that you had to put a safety over top. And that's going to open up a lot of space for Tez Johnson. I think Evan Stewart comes in, kind of fills that role. You take a look at Evan Stewart, how he really excels, and you make no mistake about it. It's working down the field, right? You see a safety over top of Evan Stewart lined up on the bottom of your screen. This is kind of the treatment Evan Stewart gets consistently in that Texas A&M offense. You're going to see Evan Stewart, work down the field, make a beautiful catch down the field, contested situation. You take a look at some more reps of Evan Stewart working at the top of your screen right here, and similar story. He's working down the field. He's making plays with the football in the air. You're looking at one of the premier wide receivers in attacking that deeper third, and that's exactly what you need for a guy like Tez Johnson to succeed. You want to create space for Tez Johnson, you got to get a wide receiver that defenses have to respect working down the field. Now, the last wide receiver I want to talk about, and the guy that, kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because you're looking at arguably the best wide receiver duo in the country in Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson is a guy like Tre Johnson, who I think is a really unique wide receiver that they kind of use him as a jumbo slot wide receiver. He's 6'3", he's 215 pounds. Tre Johnson working over the middle of the field, caught 20 of 25 catches 25 targets, 20 of 25 targets between the numbers. And I think what separates him and Tez Johnson is obviously the frame. Tre Johnson is one of those big bodies that is going to work the seam, going to work those crossing routes. And when you want to put maybe a smaller, quicker defender on a guy like Tre Johnson, the nickelback in the slot, Tre Johnson just a little bit too big and too physical for those guys to work against. You want to put a bigger body guy. Tre Johnson is going to be able to separate. You kind of look at how Oregon used a guy like Tre Johnson last year. I think the thing that stands out is you're going to bunch him up right here, top of your screen. Tre Johnson just going to work over the middle of the field. Tre Johnson really underrated in terms of what he can do after the catch as well. 3rd and 6, he gets the favorable matchup on a linebacker, and he's off to the races. And very hard to bring down with that physical frame. Guys like Tre Johnson, I think, is going to be a very unique kind of addition to this, or not addition, I should say, but another very unique piece in this Oregon offense. And it kind of all comes down to, how does this all fit together for this Oregon Ducks passing attack? Now, you're going to have an elite offensive line. We've talked about that. Josh Conley, a Johnny Cornelius at your tackle spots. You're going to have a quarterback in Dillon Gabriel that, what is Dillon Gabriel's MO? Is he's processing quickly. He's getting the football out quickly and on time, knows where to go with the football. And now Will Stein has 3 wide receivers with a lot of different skill sets to start scheming up and attacking defenses. And you look at how opposing defenses are going to try to take away this passing attack. One, if you want to kind of scrunch down and try to take away Tez Johnson, you got to be worried about Evan Stewart working over the top. If you want to play your 2 safeties really deep, try to take away a guy like Evan Stewart, you have Tez Johnson and Tre Johnson working underneath, and guys that really excel in those short intermediate route concepts. And I think that blend is going to be extremely special. Now, you kind of compare this Oregon wide receiver room, and partially why I'm getting on here and making the argument that I think this is the best wide receiver room in the country is you look at some other wide receiver rooms and say, all right, you got a couple of really good receivers. They all do the same things at a high level, and that makes it a little bit harder to attack defenses. When you have the diversity that the Oregon Ducks have in that wide receiver room, it represents a ton of different ways you can get after defenses and create space for your playmakers. And I think that is going to be the difference. And you have an elite quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, an elite play caller in Will Stein, and not to mention a run game with an offensive line that is going to be extremely good as well. I think that's what separates this Oregon offense. I think what makes me so excited about what this Oregon Ducks team looks like heading into 2024. We're going to take a look at the run game over the next couple of days. But this passing attack going to be special. In my mind, the best wide receiver room in the country. And they got a quarterback that is going to be getting the ball on time and quickly to these wide receivers. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.